Welcome back to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game. With every conversation, we hope to inspire as many as possible to keep on dungeon mastering.
And I'm one of your hosts, DM Neal, aka Joe Moniac. And today we have the one, the only, Diego Salinas from 20 Sided Tavern, and currently from Batu Live, on to talk to us about effective narration. Basically, what should we tell our players when they are walking into a room for the first time? And it's a great conversation about how to do that as effectively as possible. And we pick his brain about if it works for 700 people, maybe it'll work for the 7. And that sounds like a boys reference. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this intro is short and sweet, so let's head to the meat.
I'm starving. We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meats?
The flake meat's back on the menu, boys!
And today we're super excited to invite Diego F. Salinas to the show. Diego is a professional actor and dungeon master, best known for his work as player and dungeon master on the off-Broadway and national tour cast of Dungeons and Dragons, the 20 Sided Tavern. He currently performs with Batsu, a fusion of improv comedy and Japanese game show antics. Diego, welcome to Dungeon Master's Block.
Hey, happy to be here, y'all. Very, very much looking forward to our conversation.
Go ahead and tell the listeners anything you think they might be interested in about yourself, you know, about your TTRPG backstory, that kind of stuff. What nerds want to know?
I think I came from similar humble beginnings as all of us nerds did. I started playing D&D in my friend's basement in high school. And then about 6 years ago, I decided to turn it into a career. Once the pandemic hit, I pivoted to professional DMing and started running games online and was able to keep that snowballing over the past few years, which alongside my work as an actor and all types of immersive, interactive comedy-style shows kind of came together into a perfect storm. And in 2024, I got a phone call and I moved to New York with like 2 weeks notice and started my journey as an off-Broadway actor. Yeah, the whole, it was crazy. Yeah, I'd seen 20 Sided Tavern for the first time in like winter of 2023. They had come to Chicago to do like essentially like a mini like residency at one of our theaters here. And at the time, the show was just 20 Sided Tavern. There might be dungeons, there might be dragons, but legally never at the same time. And I went and saw the show because a friend had extra tickets. And the entire time I was sitting in the audience, I was thinking, like, I could do this. I could absolutely do this. And, you know, did my due diligence as an actor to do my networking. And, you know, radio silence for like the next year or so until around like February, right? The show popped back up on the radar and they were casting for the off-Broadway run. At this point, they had gotten the licensing rights to use Dungeons and Dragons. And it was such a great opportunity to join a really fabulous show at a really exciting time on like what I think was the 50th like anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. Like there's a picture of me in Time magazine, which is like insane. Yeah. It was a really, really fun ride, and I was just so thankful. Like I had never expected something so perfect to pop up, and I'm so glad I got to be a part of that journey.
Yeah. So for people who are unfamiliar with like what 20 Sided Tavern is, can you just like briefly describe kind of the way the show works?
Yeah. So 20 Sided Tavern is like an interactive, immersive Dungeons and Dragons one shot that's featuring 3 onstage players, essentially 2 onstage DMs, and an audience and player base of another like 300 to 500, 700 people, depending on the night. The show is very heavy into improv. The audience is able to not only pick what characters we're going to play every single night from a roster of different characters, including a rogue pretending to be a wizard and an evil, maniacal, mad scientist goblin bent on world domination, to a bard with no brains, you know, the classics. But yeah, we just get to do this really fun show every single night. The audience not only chooses where we go on the adventure, but also like what actions we take in combat. And it's a really fun romp through Waterdeep, all in like 2.5 hours. And you can have your phone out the entire time and take photos and videos and interact and play mini games along your way to help us or hinder us on our quest.
That's awesome. This is giving me flashbacks of, because I don't really, well, I don't want to admit this because of what I say next, but I'll admit it anyways. I don't necessarily live like right near LA, but just like Ghostbusters, if someone asks if you're a god, you say yes. If someone ever asks me if I'm like near LA, yes, of course I am. It makes me think of the same thing of, yeah, I'm just getting on a plane. We're going. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really wild because the audition notice came out in like February, and 2 separate friends had texted it to me and were like, you got to submit, like this is perfect for you. And I looked it up and I was like, hell yeah. Immediately, I think within the next 24 to 48 hours, I got my self-tape in. Later, I found out I think they were listening to or watching like over 2,000 or 3,000 self-tapes. And from that, we're able to cull it down to 100 odd people that they called back for the in-person callbacks in New York, which was crazy because at the time I was working at Drunk Shakespeare, and they told me I had to come. I got this callback in New York, so I told my Drunk Shakespeare at the time that, hey, I'm not going to be at these shows right now. I need to go to New York for this audition, and they said, well, we can't find coverage for you, so we need you to be at these shows. And I said, no, I'm going to New York for this callback. I think they only ended up having to cancel 1 show. But it worked out in the end because I ended up booking it.
Yeah.
And it was a really quick turnaround. I was finishing up a different show in Chicago at the time. Closing night of that show, we closed the show, had like our little closing party. My wife drove me to the airport that night. I landed in New York at like 3 or 4 in the morning. Got in a cab to my friend's apartment in Brooklyn, and then woke up the next day at 9 to get to the rehearsal space by 10 a.m. And that was like my first 12 hours in New York. Not
Nice.
even.
Oh, man.
And then my phone broke like 2 weeks into being there, so I had to like draw the Manhattan grid on a notebook so I could know where the heck I was going.
A hand-drawn map.
Yeah, literally.
Just
I mean,
like a
now
real
it's like
adventurer.
easy. Right, exactly. And I'm awful at navigation. Like that is anyone who's in Boy Scouts with me will tell you, do not trust me with a map and compass.
Print out MapQuest and hope for the best.
Seriously, I'm glad I was born in the modern age because I could not handle orienteering.
I mean, with all of that said, though, the next question we always get the privilege of asking is there currently anything that you're working on? And as always, NDAs abound that you can tell us about.
I mean, I am part of Batsu right now. So if you're in Chicago, you can definitely come and see this. This is a bit of an exclusive news. I hope by August 11th I have something to show for it. Otherwise, this will be I'll be looking.
You've
back
got
on this
until
moment.
August 10th to tell me to cut it out. You're good.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
But I am actually developing a new on your feet tabletop game show a la 20 Sided Tavern, where we're on our feet improvising. Whereas in other actual plays and on your feet type of tabletop games, we're taking a game that exists for the table and adapting it for the stage. What I've done is I've developed a brand new TTRPG system where between the dice, the players on stage, and the audience, we're making and playing a brand new tabletop role-playing game every night, where we can go across genres, across styles, breaking the mold of medieval high fantasy and being able to explore anything that is out there. The name of the show is Anything But Dragons, and you can follow us on Instagram at Anything But Dragons. We're aiming to have our first show soon, so hopefully by the time this airs, we'll have locked down a performance venue. But it's something I've been working on for the past few months, and I'm really, really excited about it.
I will probably connect with you after this, and we can chat, and I can, if you're willing to let me play test it.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you're thinking in the same space, because I really do feel like audiences are ready for something new. I think in the past 10 years, we have seen the the rise of the actual play. And you've had these entire industries and studios develop around what began as, a few friends around the table, and now they're sort of have these whole media empires now, which has expanded the kind of fantasy TTRPG genre into animation, into video games, even more so at the forefront, actual plays, videos, we have folks streaming on Dimension 20 and the folks over at Critical Role. But what I'm really excited about, what I especially learned from my time at the 20 Sided Tavern, and what I'm excited to take even further with Anything But Dragons, is the idea that there is so much more we can do with the game when we are not sitting behind a table.
Yes.
Once we're freed from the table and can get up on our feet for the role play, I think that adds a whole new level of dynamism and engagement and thrill for our audiences. So I'm excited to have that be a central tenet of the project that I'm working on.
Nice.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah, we've had a few fun play tests, because the idea is the show begins and we collect 30 suggestions from different audience members, kind of in the pre-show as folks are walking in.
Yeah.
And then at the top of the show, we roll 2 30-sided dice, and that's the name of the show for that night.
Just those 2 suggestions, yeah.
Just those 2 suggestions. And from there, we go through and we decide what the abilities are, what the modifiers for those abilities are, and then what the, in this game, we call them niches or classes. And those are all being generated by the audience and being decided by the dice. Recently, we've had playtest games where we played, Work Boots and Heelys, which became this sort of neon-soaked 80s mall adventure about a popularity contest between 2 rival groups of teens. We also played Newts and Reds, which was this Cold War era political thriller smashed together with A Bug's Life. So all the characters were these pond-side bugs and critters. And last night, we got to play test Wheelbarrows and Collectibles, which ended up being this whole thing about collecting souls to pay the rent for our local friendly gaming store.
Yeah, because your landlord is the devil or whatever. Incredible. Yeah. This sounds so fun. Wow.
It's really fun. I'm really excited to bring it to audiences here in Chicago, and to really find kind of what its paces are, and put it in front of people.
How quick's the turnaround from the suggestions to the naming to okay, this is these are the kind of the niches and abilities? Are you trying to get that done within a minute or what?
No, we're actually taking a very big involved kind of game show aspect to that. So we're that's the crunchiest part of the experience, right? Welcoming everyone in, telling them what we're doing, and deciding all of those elements. But we are aiming to get that done, and we're clocking in at about 10 minutes at the top.
Okay.
But it comes with audience suggestions, people get to shout stuff out, audience gets to roll dice. It clips along, so it's not just 10 minutes of us explaining rules for a game you've never heard of.
Yeah.
But it is an opportunity for us to take that initial suggestion and begin to tease out ideas of what it might become. Because initially, Newts and Reds, didn't seem like a Cold War political thriller, with spies and political subterfuge. But the abilities that we collect 8 abilities from the audience, and then roll a D8, a D7, and a D6 to decide the 3 main abilities of the show.
Are you writing these down anywhere, on a whiteboard or anything? Yeah, okay.
Correct. We're troubleshooting the tech elements right now, but the idea is that we will have a big screen on stage, or a projector of sorts, and we'll be able to update these things so that the audience can see one big character sheet projected at the back of the stage. So that way you can keep track of everything. But from, aside from all that mechanical stuff, at the end of the day, what really will bring the people in, I think, is the stories that we tell.
Yeah.
And by being free from any pre-existing game or pre-existing tropes of a game, it really gives us the freedom to explore and tell stories that aren't bound to a familiar narrative or a familiar setting, and hopefully give audiences something fresh.
Well, and in the business mind in me it's great, because if they have a good time, they can want to come back, because they know without a shadow of a doubt that they didn't see it.
Exactly that.
It's going to be completely different, yeah, every time.
It's been really fun designing the mechanics of it because, you know, the audience will choose like what the modifiers are for each of the onstage player characters. And it's one of those things that you can just kind of walk up on stage and just do it. But I'm trying to design the mechanics so that way the repeat audience members, they can have a little bit of a min-maxing edge in that moment if they choose. The audience is also going to be a player throughout the entire thing. We use an element of luck burn in this show, but the audience as a whole controls our luck pool that they can use to modify rolls and level up the characters over the course of the quest to hopefully assemble a team that is ready to conquer whatever problem is in front of it by the end of it.
This is so awesome.
It's really fun.
Yeah. Neal, you got that surprise question cooking. You warned us about it earlier. Let's hear it.
So you keep talking about what you're doing in Chicago, and it reminds me of one very important thing. And I looked it up real quick. I wasn't ready for the numbers I saw. They make me uncomfortable. That's okay. Because originally filmed in 1986 from 1990, but I only observed it in the early 2000s when it was dubbed over. Do you remember, and what was your favorite event from MXC, the Most Extreme Challenge? And if you don't remember, I will inform you, and it will change.
What?
It will change your life.
I've only been in Chicago since 2019, so I think I might have missed this.
No.
This?
Okay, so this is no. It was on TV. So in Japan, from 86 to 90, they had this way over the top, like physical competitive show. But we as Americans only experienced it through Spike TV and TNN. In the early 2000s, it was completely dubbed over, like improv dubbed the entire time. They would dub over the people playing. They would dub over as if they were the announcers. And it's called MXC, Most Extreme Challenge. It will change your life.
I definitely need to add that to my list. That sounds insane. It sounds like a lot like what we do in Batsu to a certain extent.
Did they have the slippery stairs?
Yes.
Like there was like stairs that were just like plastic and they put a bunch of soapy water on it and they were like all trying to climb it at the same time and like
or
each other
you're
down.
like
I remember
you're having
this.
to choose like which pathway to run through, and then you just get slammed into a wall, or something would come flying out and just punch you in the face. And then, like I said, they would dub over, like improv style dub over every single person that was in the show, because
that's so funny.
And they have no bearing on what's actually there. You can tell whoever's dubbing has no Japanese in their skill set whatsoever.
They're just saying whatever matches the lip flaps the closest,
or just whatever
insane.
Hilarious. And MXC. So it changed your life.
I will definitely be adding that to my late night YouTube rotation. I was a big fan of Silent Library growing up. I think it was like an MTV one. Similar kind of premise, right? In Japanese style type of game show, doing insane challenges, but you have to try and keep a decibel meter from going over.
Yeah, that would be like super shortly after MXC would have ended.
Yeah, I mean, there was that time. I feel like in the early 2000s, there was a lot of like Japanese influence in like the fringe media, especially. I mean, like the Teen Titans, they had their whole alternate intro song in Japanese, which was how you knew that episode was going to slap.
And the greatest intro for X-Men, the animated series, they do for Japan, they recut the entire intro, and it's a different song and it's in anime style.
For X-Men 97?
No. For X-Men, the animated series, the original.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Oh, it's so much better. And I'm just like, well, I want to watch that. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I love it, I want to watch this instead. This is way better.
Yeah, I want some.
Well, I guess it wasn't so much a surprise question as a surprise recommendation, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Surprise trivia fact, honestly. I love going down those like weird little like rabbit holes.
Take us to the meat, sir.
All right. Today, Diego, you mentioned you've got a lot of experience on a lot of different facets of tabletop role-playing and running games, and so we wanted to dig into a few of those. So you mentioned effective narrations and writing effective narrations and using them, so we'd love to dive more into that and like what those are to you, when you would use them, tips and tricks on how to write them, all of that good stuff. So yeah, take us away. Start us off with why you feel passionate about this as a topic.
Yeah, I think Effective narration is one of the most fundamental skills that a DM has to master, especially a professional DM or aspiring professional DMs that might be listening. Because for a game that lives almost entirely in the collective imagination, being able to effectively and efficiently orient your characters in this imagined play space is such a good skill. How many times have we been in a game and suddenly the DM starts like monologuing for 90 minutes about, or 90 seconds about like every possible like detail in this room? I find that a lot of dungeon masters sometimes over narrate as a way to sort of fill in the blank of the world. Whereas my philosophy that has been honed over the past few years as a dungeon master is that people have the imagination already in their heads. We just need to nudge them a little bit and leave enough blank space that the player can also come in and color some stuff. I like to use an example of, a graveyard. Let's say our players at our graveyard, and that's kind of like where the game is beginning. Rather than going through and listing all the spooky, scary things in a graveyard, I like to take my narrations and just break them down into 5 components. The first is location. The second is a detail about that location. The third is an objective in that location. The fourth is a point of interest in that location. And the last sentence should be what is communicating the urgency of this scene, of this moment. So if we go back to our graveyard example, we can just pick one kind of big chunky detail and bring forth a narration that is effective, straightforward, easy for the players to know what they're supposed to do there. So for example, we could say, you find yourselves on a foggy graveyard. Gravestones stretch out for miles like jagged, broken teeth. Nearby one of the mausoleums, churned earth has spilled onto the stone steps, still wet from the previous rain. A fire burns inside the mausoleum. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hoots. So if and the thing that I should always say at the end of every narration, turn it over to the players. What would you do? So let's kind of role play this out for a second. Either one of y'all, what would you do in that situation?
Go home. No, I'm.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Okay, hold on though. This is a thing that I did with Celeste a while ago, and I don't think I've pinned Derrick down. So if you'll give me a brief moment, Diego, I'm gonna interject because I don't remember. Derrick, have you decided who your character for the collective podcast world? Matt behind me, you haven't decided. Okay. You gotta lock in. You gotta make yourself insert here.
What's your character? What's Celeste's character? Like what's taken so far?
So when we did it originally, so I had a Shatterkai rogue that also I started dipping into Warlock because I'm just a big fan of the Raven Queen. So a little Warlock rogue mix, and then she was a halfling druid.
Okay. I mean, I have never played a barbarian. I've always wanted to. I feel like paladins are really fun because I like casting spells, but I've never played a pure martial class. So let's go with barbarian.
So your barbarian sees all this before them. A foggy graveyard, miles of tombstones like broken, jagged teeth, a churned earth, freshly tilled, spilling onto the stone steps of a mausoleum. And within that mausoleum, a burning flame. An owl hoots in the distance. What do you do?
Yeah, the first thing I'd probably do is pick up some of that freshly turned to earth and give it a little lick, see how fresh I think it is, Do a little...
Incredible.
Do
with
a little
that,
check.
Like, let's say, you rolled really well on that. Let's say you got an 18 on an investigation check. Give you a little bit of information. It's taste that this earth has a sourness to it. Mm-hmm. It was used to bury a body somewhat recently. And then as the DM, like kind of the point of that narration, right, is that you do have this kind of thing that you're supposed to look at the thing that has like the marker above it in a video game.
Right.
From there, the players get the opportunity to play, interact, investigate. What does that owl see? What's that flame inside the thing? But it has a point where they know they can do anything. But here's this thing that I've laid out for you, to kind of work around. And I find that really helps kind of keep everything straight in everyone's minds. So that way, after you finish your investigation check, it's like, okay, great. The moon has risen a little higher. The fog burns away a little bit more. The owl has gone silent by now, and that flame still flickers in the mausoleum.
Is the owl still there? If the owl's still there, I'd probably try to talk to it. But if not, then, I'd pull my battle hammer off my back and start making way down the stairs, I guess,
Fantastic. Yeah, from there, then, it would move us into our new location and another opportunity for effective narration, right? Whatever is inside that mausoleum, whatever is at the bottom of those stairs, we can just go in again and kind of very clearly set up the space. The location, the detail, the objective, the main thing to look at there, the point of interest, something that might give some more details about the lore of the world or the nature of the adventure or the situation. That whole opening narration is different if that very last sentence is, you hear the moaning of ghouls somewhere in the dark, right? It sort of necessitates, it communicates to our players, something's coming. We have to move a little faster.
Well, I want to pull apart a little bit of something that you did there. You did it so casually that, like I said, I want to drill down on it just a touch.
Please.
Is that you kind of hinted to the idea of also being aware, kind of you as the DM being aware of what the actual next point of interest is. Because when we enter the mausoleum, there's two options. And the option is that the inside of the mausoleum is important, or down the stairs and beyond it is important. And so if the second thing is true and the first is not, then the effective narration is not to spend that 90 seconds describing the inside of the mausoleum and all of the things in the crypts and the elaborate writing that is on them. And this one is in Elvish and this one is in Dwarven. And then, but if there's nothing of actual interest in here for you, the DM, narrating the story, then that's not important. And what needs to be important is that does the flame move further down? Is it now down at the bottom of the stairs? And so that's me being a little heavy handed with it, of course, but like the idea that keeping in mind for me, what is the next point of interest? So we don't get too interested, as players are wont to do, in something that I over describe.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that I want to overcome with that effective narration is, like, even kind of every player is going to approach the same narration differently, and they will latch onto something different, but at the very least, they have something that has been spoken and said that they can kind of come back to if, they've looked around everywhere and kind of still feel a little lost. I like to think of it like in kind of like cartoons, right? When it's like, which door are we going to go behind? The painted one, or the one that's painted a little different and seems to protrude like out of the set design a little bit. Not that there are like false
thing
options,
they're actually going to interact with. That's funny.
Exactly.
I was just watching Looney Tunes with my sons this weekend, and it was like
exactly like Looney Tunes, like any
still
any
in
of those,
modern animation, which blows me away. That that thing still happens. You're like, well, you're going to interact with that. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's in the context of tabletop role-playing games, you can do anything in a tabletop role-playing game, more so than you can in almost any other form of media and entertainment. But there's only so many choices that we as humans can make, especially when we can't physically look around and see this world that we're interacting with. Keeping it clear, keeping it simple allows us to kind of get to what's important a little bit faster, and anything else can be filled in, with DM discretion, right? With like the thing about the owl, right? It's like, well, maybe, is that owl perched on top of a tree? A player might ask. I'll say, yeah, there's a withered old willow nearby. Mm-hmm. Awesome. I want to climb to the top of the tree and see if I can see anything on the mausoleum. Great. Fantastic. You know that the mausoleum's important, but the way that you got there was through the other details that you could interact with. It's giving you a bit of a guardrail to hold on to as you explore. And I find that after I play with players for a while, whether they're my clients that hire me to run games for them or my friends in my home games, eventually they take a little bit more ownership of the scene and of the world, and aren't always just like looking at their character sheet trying to find the answer to a problem that doesn't exist there.
All right. Well, I'm going to make this whole thing a serendipitous moment, and I'm going to make it so that I actually ask a surprise question. So, one, we recently got an email from someone. DM Jack asked pretty specifically within like the last week, like how to approach box text. And I feel like this is a really important, like kind of folding it in, because there's something very different from like I've written everything to I've adapted something that has already been pre-written. So my actual surprise question now is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate box text?
I think box text, if 1 is it has no place in this world, and 10 is I've stitched it into my soul.
Yep. Die by it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say box text is somewhere in like a 3 to 4. If I'm running something out of the box and I don't have the time to look it up before, I will usually default to the box text. And a lot of different game designers write their box text differently. Like I love the way that Arcane Library does their box text in a way that's very bullet pointed. But if you look at Curse of Strahd, right, you'll see that a lot of these introductions to the different locations or the different story beats can be a little bit sprawling. So I like to think of them, if I have the time to prep, then I will use them as inspiration and rewrite that box text, because within that box text is all the like important info that we need to let the players know exists in this room or in this location, but it might just be a little bit too like decadent with the adjectives and with the descriptions. I like to kind of keep it to one kind of big juicy description, and then everything else can stay kind of simple, and then we can flesh it out from there. So yeah, I'd say box text is a great jumping off point if you have the time to prepare, but you can definitely starts to feel a little rote if by the end of the session it hasn't found its place in your own voice.
Derek?
Yeah, I feel like Diego said, if I'm running something that's pre-written, I will probably read it. If it's really long, then I'll amend it if I need to. I try to keep my descriptions simple, and then like Diego said, like my players will definitely think laterally from what I've described and like try to circumvent or go around or whatever, anything that I build, right? And so I inevitably have to say, oh yeah, the owl is in the tree, and yeah, sure, you can climb the tree. I have to let them approach the puzzles in whatever way they're going to do it, right? They're going to try to rope swing from a different angle, or they're going to try to climb it from the other side, or whatever it's going to be. Like they're never going to just walk straight into something that I build, but that's okay. That's part of the fun. And then I have to kind of describe from there. But yeah, I'd probably say if it's my own game, then I have bulleted lists of like stuff that I want to address for places they go. Like in a dungeon, like each room will have a few features that I want to mention or whatever. But I definitely write less of kind of like the box text in my own games, as opposed to when I'm running a pre-written adventure. Then I will still read it, but I definitely have to like do more than just read it to make sure that they understand what's going on.
Yeah, I find that like since for my clients, I tend to run like the same one shots over and over for different groups of clients. And so I've found that like I've started to prep as if I'm publishing. So that way, it's never, I haven't gotten to that step yet, but like ideally the lift from transferring it from my notation to like 5e module notation shouldn't be that difficult. And in that way, I think it's been a very fun exercise being able to look critically at my adventures, beat by beat, scene by scene, encounter by encounter, and just tighten those things. And just to know as a DM too, like what is important about this space? What is important about this room? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Is a question I always want answered.
When I did the Kickstarter with my friend a few years ago, it was interesting to like have to sit down and write it in that style like you're describing, Diego. Like if I'm selling this to other people and it's a one shot, they have to have like specific boxed text to read. And so I was a lot more intentional about writing it that way when I was designing it for other people.
Yeah.
I think I probably land in like the 5 area, and so Kyle Kinane is one of my favorite comedians, so I'm going to adapt one of his jokes to describe how I feel about verbose is not long enough of a word to describe how certain designers abuse box text.
Yes.
But then subsequently, the other thing I've noticed is true sometimes is like, I've read the box text, but I also read the paragraph before, and boy, is that really important up in there that I really need to talk about. So I'm very confused as to why it's not in the box text. But I ultimately, I feel like the reason it's usually not going to go like much higher than like 8, even the perfect box text, is because it's not my voice. And if it's not my voice, and I do really read every box text for a published module, especially if it's longer, it's going to get weird. It might not be weird for the first, but eventually it's going to be weird because I'm going to be describing certain things with my voice. And then when we open the door, it's not my voice. It's going to be the voice of box text. So yeah, I think it's absolutely required. I think it's absolutely necessary because the people that are coming into DMing first, it's perfect. It's perfect for them to leverage. But I think even if you're brand new, I would say, just write the box text again, type it out, whatever version you need in your voice, no matter what.
Yes. And I think also like for like new DMs too or like folks who are DMing a new module that they're running out of the box, it's like, you have ownership of the story. Like what Matt Colville says, like game design doesn't stop at the table. You can keep tweaking that box text as you keep going, right? Because eventually, it might just say like in the next room, it's like, you walk into a beautiful shop full of elegant vases, but the party has just set off a fireball and has blown up half the town square. Right. So that box text is completely different now. And I honestly find that that's the moment where players can feel once they've like done something and been like, oh, we're somewhere new, and like that's always so exciting for them that it's like, feel like lean into the unexpected things that happen between the dice and the players and the story, because that's always going to be more relevant than whatever was pre-written for you to read by the writer.
That happens a lot. They're like running through something because something else is chasing them or whatever, and you're like, well, there's a lot of stuff in here that you're not going to see because the urgency level is very different now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
That owl is hooting fast.
Right.
Hoot, 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 hoot.
Just get really into owl lore. They're like, no, what kind is it? That's not how it would look. That's not
Great
where
horned
it would
owl.
Be. It wouldn't be in that kind
in
of tree.
This time of night. Yeah.
You're out of your mind.
Well, actually, this is barn owl territory.
So I know the question that Derek and I mulled over beforehand, and now that we've talked about it, I feel like I can frame it a little better, because you've had the opportunity to see if certain narrations land in front of hundreds of people at a time. So like you said, 300 to 700, you titrate that down to 3 to 7 players at the same time. Are there certain things that you noticed didn't land? And that, because you kind of, when you have that many people, it's kind of the least common denominator of, I said something, I know it didn't work because nobody did anything, which that's how all of it works, is you hope that everything you say lands beautifully and just fills your soul with joy, but ultimately not everything will. Are there certain parts of narration that you kind of learned over time didn't work as well for that larger crowd?
I think with a larger crowd, especially, it is, like you were saying, you are having to play towards the least common denominator. You have to communicate in a way that is the most accessible for most of the audience without, of course, compromising the story and whatnot. Like, I don't have to explain how many sides a 20-sided die has every single time I bring one up. But I do have a really beautiful gift when I have a crowd that I'm DMing for, in that they are reacting more so as like one hive mind than anything. And that immediate, almost, within a crowd, you're anonymous, right? But that immediate quote unquote anonymous feedback that everyone is giving is influencing everyone around them and gives us so many fun opportunities to, as performers, as comedians, as improvisers, to find a little game in the narration and be able to drill down on it. There's this moment in the show where, you know, the players come and meet like the quest giving NPC, and the quest giving NPC is giving them all the lore about, you know, why this great havoc is tearing through Waterdeep. And we ask the audience members to always name our NPCs. We'll always shout out and ask for a name. And sometimes they'll just really say something funny, and it will be an opportunity to play with it. One of my favorite suggestions we got for the evil wizard's name was Redacted, and that gave us an opportunity to really play an almost who's on first type of game as players on stage that we could tell that the audience was really vibing with and could kind of push to its biggest, most comical conclusion. There are other moments too where we can bring the intensity in a little bit more and have some really poignant emotional moments. I think with a crowd that big, at the end of the day, you know, the choices that you're making, you have to earn them, right? Having a big saccharine emotional beat at the top might not land as effectively if you haven't spent 60 minutes slow cooking this emotional journey for the character, slowly building this vocabulary of callbacks and references that have been developed over the course of the night. I think that's where the real skill for DMing at scale like that is. And all of our dungeon masters at 20 Sided Tavern were absolutely phenomenal at it, being able to listen to what the audience was enjoying and feeding more of that into the fire and helping us fan the flames. And especially when you have a phenomenal cast like everyone who's at TST, you know, we're all primed to be listening to that and to support and to go all in 100% on every choice, so that we can make the audience feel seen and heard, and also be able to take that idea that they gave us and blow it up in ways that they never anticipated.
I like that the answer was the carrot, not the stick, of finding the things that they do like and leaning there and leaning away from the things that didn't land. You know, if Redacted wasn't something that they clearly found funny, it can still remain the character name, but it doesn't become the ultimate joke of, wait, who are we fighting? It's Redacted. No, why won't you tell me? Well, it's Redacted. No, I need to know who we're fighting. It's Redacted.
Exactly.
Oh man!
And tomorrow's pitching. Yeah.
I just had flashbacks to my early days on Xbox. I was like, how do I reload? Why? Because I'm out of bullets. He's like, why? I'm like, no, I need to reload right now. He's like, push the Y button. Oh, well, I feel like you could have just said that the first time and we wouldn't have gone through this together, but we did.
That's
Who are you playing with?
Funny.
X.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Nice.
What did you?
It's a fun time. It's definitely that. The carrot is definitely more worthwhile than the stick. And you know, there are times where I've gone up and thought I was gonna say something that would really land with the crowd, and then it's crickets. And then it's super fun to steer into the skid and be like, oh yeah, y'all don't like crickets now, and get in the audience's face a little bit, and then they get in your face a little bit, and it's that same kind of, you know, how you can feel that tension at a D&D table where a pin could drop and everyone could hear it. You can get that on stage as well if you're a good and effective listener.
So yeah, kind of transitioning more to these kind of for big crowd games. What other stuff have you kind of picked up and learned from your theater experience that you feel translates really well to your table experience when you're running games?
After 20 Sided Tavern, my D&D games have gotten 1,000% better. I'm so much more comfortable now using mechanics as a way of supporting the story. and have a lot more fun bending and breaking and rearranging the rules to tell the story that I need to tell at that table with that group. Case in point, a lot of my clients are playing one-shots with me. A lot of these folks have either never played D&D or are playing for the first time in a long time, or, their wife is super into D&D, but they're kind of just here to have fun and support. And I have to make sure that those folks are having as much fun and getting the spotlight and getting the ball as much as the diehard fans. And we've all been there, right, where someone who's playing a barbarian or someone who's playing a wizard is like, okay, I want to cast, this spell. I want to cast, create and shape water, but I want to do it to take all the moisture out of their liver. And that's obviously not how create or destroy water or shape water works. But it's also, you can get diminishing returns when you're running this for clients, and you can't just let anything happen because the rules do matter so that we have a story that matters. But now, whereas before I would have gone into a whole explanation about well, actually, this is a 3rd level spell, and it says you have to have line of sight with the water you want to affect, and technically you can't see and giving them an actually explanation of why this made up spell in this made up game doesn't work. What I found is, especially since playing Abria Iyengar at 20 Sided Tavern, the idea of really just, okay, what you're trying to do is you're trying to cast this spell in a way that it's never been done before. So you're essentially trying to break new barriers of magic. If you want to do this, if you want to create or destroy water to destroy the water in someone's liver, you can do this, but I'm going to need a DC 28 Arcana check. Obviously, depending what level they are, probably not going to get it, but there's a possibility. They could always roll a crit. And now I've been started taking rules and mechanics from other systems. So Dungeon Crawl Classics is one that I've been very, very enamored by and has served as a big inspiration for anything but dragons. But they have, an idea of luck burn, and you can burn your ability score totals. So there was this one cool thing where some players wanted to use the spell in a way that totally didn't work. I told them it was going to be a very high DC, and they didn't get it. They were, 3 or 4 numbers shy. And so I was like, okay. And they were like, oh, well, I have this historian background. Does that do anything? And, technically, no. The spell doesn't work, but this is a one-shot, and this is your first time playing, and I want you to I want to honor this creative risk that you're taking with me. So I was like, okay, well, since you are a historian, then you have learned of ancient magics that take a very personal cost. You can get a +1 modifier to this roll for as many intelligence points that you burn. And that became whoa, because this is a decision they've never, the idea that their idea is being honored in such a way, just the fact that they can try is the biggest thing. And that allows the game to maintain its forward momentum without it having to become me being a rules referee about, in the grand scheme of things, about something that is inconsequential, right? At the end of the day, you want to make an attack, right? And you're trying to do it in a very creative way. This is a one-shot. If this were, our long-term campaign, we'd have a conversation about mechanical consistency, but yeah, it's a one-shot. Let's go crazy. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what the dice say. That's what I always say.
I like that a lot because, like you said, especially if it's someone's only exposure to the game, if it's just, well, I rolled dice, but because I didn't roll very high ever, I didn't get to actually do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's no fun. Yeah. Of course, they're never going to want to play again if that was their first experience,
How many people play a Dragonborn and they're like, I use my wings to fly, and it's I don't know how to tell you that doesn't I feel like such an a-hole to telling someone actually you're Dragonborn, they don't have wings, duh.
I feel like the other classic is they want to do a called shot, right? Oh, I want to throw sand in his eyes. Oh, I want to hit the wings so he can't fly anymore. Of course that's what you want to do because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it doesn't exist, but it makes a lot of sense.
I always like the counter sometimes of like curbing it a little to kind of illustrate the world is like, you know who doesn't want that though? The guy you're trying to throw sand in their eye. You know who doesn't want all the liquid out of their liver? That liver and whoever's attached to it.
Exactly.
I mean, the dark DM version is, yeah, as a historian, you remember everyone else that failed at this.
Yeah, that's really funny. As a historian, you know, documented fact that this cannot happen.
Yes.
It's like the Arrested Development meme. It's never worked for anybody else, but it might work for us.
Yeah.
Might work for us. You never know until you try.
I want to say we're kind of rounding out. This will be a fun question to throw at you. Other than everyone going and watching MXC, one of the things we do here at the end is we start talking about homework a little bit. What tips and tricks and advice would you give for people that either read, to watch, engage with, go out to a show, and kind of experience some of the stuff that we've been talking about?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I find that a lot of my D&D inspiration is inspired by, rooted in, or emulates a lot of what I like to learn about, like from ancient history. So if you're a history nerd and also find that your D&D games tend to feature a touch of historical elements, the Fall of Civilizations podcast is just a really great resource for just knowing how different cultures worked and imagining different ways to organize societies in your fantasy worlds. Also, I would highly recommend just going out on a walk in nature. It's so easy to imagine every fight in a forest happening on like an even forest floor where every tree is 7 feet away from every other tree. But I was going on a little hike outside of Chicago earlier this summer, and I was coming around a bend in the trail, and I was like, I could get ambushed here. If there were goblins in that bush, I wouldn't have seen them. Like, look at the thickets around the bases of the trees. Look at the way the actual world has been made, our actual world, and know that you can do all of that and so much more when you bring it around the table. Another bit of homework, the next time you run a D&D session and it has combat in it, don't make killing the PCs, don't make that the goal of your NPCs. So many players have such delightful surprise on their face when they realize that the bad guys aren't trying to kill them, but are actually just trying to kidnap as many villagers as they can so they can go and sacrifice them at the bonfire for the dark ritual that night. Find other objectives in your D&D combat, and it won't feel like such a slog.
Just to the death every single time. Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's like, it's like we don't have to do this anymore. It's like, yeah, we do.
I love it. I love all those recommendations. I find myself all the time, Diego, when I'm driving through the mountains and stuff, I'm like, ooh, this would be a cool thing. Ooh, that would be cool. Mm-hmm. You know, like just seeing natural world and like thinking about how you could tell a story around that formation or like how that could make for an interesting encounter or something. Yeah, totally.
It's a beautiful world out there.
Yeah, go on a drive. I mean, if I drove from here to you, Diego, the things I would see.
Oh, man.
It's just,
we
lose sight of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, let's stop setting our D&D games in temperate European forests. There are so many other biomes we can explore. Like, please show me some weather that like makes my skin jump.
Heck yeah.
Love it.
I'm trying to think what else. Go see a show. Go and try and pin down a show that you can tell has like some improv elements to it and see what they're doing. Watch someone else do it.
Yeah.
Go online. If you're not comfortable finding something in your local area, because not everywhere has it. Certainly like it'd be somewhat difficult for me. Like I know how far I would probably have to drive to see something like it, but I know how far I would have to go to see it and hear it. And it's where I'm currently sitting. I can just pull it up on this computer and watch it. You know, I mean, my number one is certainly go out, go see a show, experience it firsthand, be a part of it. Cause I think that's a really fun element. Cause I've been to shows like that. I've certainly been to the murder mystery style where people on stage don't technically know who's going to die tonight. And then it's based on crowd interaction, and basically who the crowd hates is what I quickly figured out is whoever the crowd has unanimously decided we don't like them. Don't know why, but they're going to die tonight. So yeah, if you can get that like natural element and be a part of it, I think you'll gain a little more. But again, there are so many options online. I would say try and find something that you feel like is up your alley.
Yeah, there's nothing on TV right now, y'all. Like, I trust me, I've looked. Like, all the TV sucks right now. So go, like, take that time, like, invest in live theater, invest in live performance, invest in someone who's making something in their corner of the world that speaks to your corner of the world.
It might be the only way to see something new. The largest, biggest movie right now. I am not throwing shade at it. I am throwing shade at the concept of it. Is something that was written thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? We should do that again. And I'm just like, one, it's glorious, and don't get me wrong, but at the same time, really?
I know. I'm holding out for the Epic of Gilgamesh live action adaptation.
Nice.
I feel like that source material is just ripe to be, re-examined.
Yep.
I would watch some Gilgamesh for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. I saw this short form video of these guys who are doing like a sketch about your 30-year-old coworkers at Best Buy, and one of them was like, "Yeah, when I was in high school, I told everyone I was waiting for the movie to come out for Odyssey. That's why I didn't read it." And everyone laughed at me. And then the other guy's like, "Yeah, see, he showed them because he waited." Like, it's so freaking funny. He's like, "I'm not even the one who waited the longest time. It came out like thousands of years ago." Anyway, it's so funny.
Gosh.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure I'll see it eventually.
It was fun. I watched it this past weekend. I'd say I'd recommend it. I had a good time. And I think it's a movie that's really in conversation with the collapse of our civilization that we're currently experiencing right now.
Hopefully
the world
not,
has ended
.
many times before, and it will end many times again. It just is a matter of who it's ending for.
That's deep.
Also, you should definitely watch it in IMAX. Christopher Nolan made sure you want that because it's going to cut the top and bottom off if you don't.
Yeah, no, I need
cow.
to go back and watch it again in IMAX just because I want the whole movie.
Yeah, I saw some like side by sides. I was like, "Oh, those are two different movies. Those are two whole different movies."
They are. Growing up in Colorado, we had an IMAX theater in Denver, so I could go watch stuff there. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw Avatar when it first came out on that IMAX, but here in Utah we don't have one, so
rip.
I have to visit my parents and go see it.
Our final and possibly most important question, though, is where can people go on this world wide web and find everything you're doing?
Folks, if you want to stay kind of up to date to everything that I'm working on, you can always visit my Instagram at Diego_F_Salinas. You can also visit my website, foreverdm.xyz. I'm a professional dungeon master, and recently I've started branching out into coaching sessions for people who also want to develop their skills to become professional dungeon masters or better DMs for their home games. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to reach out. Or if you just want to play D&D online or in person, I got dice and I'm willing to travel. And hopefully by the time this airs, Anything But Dragons is out and about. So make sure to follow at Anything But Dragons and keep your eyes peeled for show dates coming soon.
Are you at all going to record or stream any of those?
I'm thinking that's something I want to do down the line. I definitely want to stream them and be able to sell digital tickets to it, especially since it's so new every single night. It's you might as well log in and be able to see it. I think for this first iteration, I definitely want to keep the scope of what I'm trying to accomplish more streamlined, so I can do a really good live show and then branch that out into a show that anyone with an internet connection can access.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll keep tabs on it then, and because Chicago is quite far, but the internet is not. So
that's true, my friend.
I want to say, I know for sure we will have to have you back on for something.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. This was a really fun conversation. I'd be more than happy to come and give an update on where things are with ABD.
We just want to thank Diego again for coming on, spending some time with us, talking with us about how we can better do effective narration. And of course, if you have ways that you've been doing effective narration and changing that box text, you can always email us about it at dungeonmasterblock@gmail.com. And of course, if you head over to your podcatcher of choice, you can always leave a rating and review, and it'll make me personally smile. And of course, if you head over to social media, that's fine. And you can usually find us at DMS_block. That's DM's block. And of course, as always, we're a proud member of the Block Party Podcast Network, where you can check out other shows like Dungeons and Dragons and Daughters, The Bad Venture Club, and more. But as always, thank you for listening to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing gods, killing characters, and lowering the ego scores of everyone else at the table. I'm DM Neal. Good night, good luck, and keep on dungeon mastering.
It's not inspiration, it's not wisdom, and it's bad advice.
Just make the whole thing box text and just read it. Players will love it.
Goodbye.